Hello, hello, good evening. It's Monica from Life is Art, and it's Wednesday. Let's create. I got a frog in my throat just as soon as I started talking. Gotta love it when that happens. I'll give everybody just a minute or two to find us. We're starting a few minutes late today. I had posted about that, so hopefully all of you who are waiting to join in saw the message that I was going to be 15 minutes late. I had to drop off my son for a staff meeting at the Air Cadets headquarter thing here in Brampton for his squadron. And so, you know, mom's taxi rides again. Hey, good evening, Joanne. Howdy, howdy, Karen. Nice to see you guys are watching. If you're popping on, just say hello. And if you're watching later, you can say replay, and then I'll know who came by later to check everything out. So today we are going to be doing sort of a mix and match card, because we're going to do a couple things, and then we're going to cut it up, and we're going to mix and match it a bit. So let me just pull in my catalog here. I've got the October to December catalog, and I've got a page marked even. Woohoo, I'm so proud of myself. And we're going to be using the Holly embossing folder and stencil set. Now, you've seen me use this before on a card, and we did it kind of vintagey, and that was really fun. This one's going to be more crisp and clean looking. So we're using the Holly embossing folder and stencil, and I like to show those things more than once because I know a bunch of you bought that one because it was really cool. And so, you know, I like to give you extra ideas of how to use it. And then also from the core catalog, I'm going to be going back to this same stamp set. I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting a lot of use out of this one. It's called the Merriest season. It coordinates with the 4 Seasons collections. So there's spring, summer, fall, or autumn, and winter. And so this is the winter one, the Merriest season. So we're going to be using that for some embellishing on this card. And let's get started. So hopefully that gave everybody a few minutes to find us and to get logged on. Hey, Carol, nice to see her watching. Joanne, yes, that Holly stencil and embossing folder is very cool. So I'm starting out with 2 pieces of white daisy, and these are cut to the same size as a card front. Let me just double check to make sure it is. It's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and it's good to check both of them because I have had the trouble of cutting things and not realizing that there was a problem, and then I get partway through and realize it was the wrong size. You know, these things happen. So I've also got here my Holly embossing folder and stencil pack, and I kind of like keeping them in this little Ziploc baggie because it keeps them all together. And you're not going to lose the stencils this way. So we're going to start off with the embossing folder. We'll be using the stencils in a minute. So that means that I also need to bring in my embossing die cut machine. And it works no matter what machine you have. It's just an embossing folder. So you need to set your machine up for whatever sandwich, I guess you want to call it, you need. And so mine's a big shot. So I open up everything and just have the bottom platform and then the cutting plate, even though we're not cutting. And then I'm going to take one of my card front pieces and I'm going to line it up. I'm going to try and get it nice and lined up because this is the full size of the embossing folder. Okay. So we're going to line that up, and then we're going to run it through. And you might be wondering why I have 2 of them. And that is because, in fact, I might even run it back through, and that way my embossing platform and everything is on this side. So I can take everything out. We're going to run this through 2 times. Because we're actually going to end up with 2 cards at the end of this. That's really cool. It's like 2 for the price of 1. So let's run this through again. All the way through. I kind of like cards that start out with just white paper, and then you see where it goes from there. It's kind of fun to do that. It's kind of like mixed media feel. So there we go. We've got 2 pieces of paper, White Daisy, that have now been embossed with that really pretty pattern with the leaves and the holly and the berries and all the little things, right? All the goodness. So let's put this away because we're done with this. Put it all back together. I store mine on the floor because, can't fall any farther. And then what I want to do is I'm going to set one of these aside for now. So just pop that off to the side. And I'm going to bring in my all-purpose mat. I'm just going to put it right on top of my Versamat. And this all-purpose mat is great because I've got stuff stacked here. Got my ink, my acrylic blocks and things for stamping later on. And so that's getting in the way of my all-purpose mat. There we go. It keeps all the mess contained, right? Sometimes we need to contain the mess. And so to do that, this all-purpose mat works great because you just wipe it off when you're done and it works lovely. So we've got 2 layers of our stencil here, and one of them has sort of the leaves and stems, and one has some more leaves and sort of the berry-ish things. And you can tell from looking at the state of this stencil that this is the one that I've used for red most often, and this one is used for green. I have washed both of them just the same, but red will stain, right? It's just in the makeup of the ink that red will always stain. It will always stain your stamps. It will always stain your stencils, and you just have to go with it, right? Life's too short to worry about whether things are going to get stained, right? That's why we always wear our less than perfect clothes when we craft. Hey, Heather, nice to see you're watching. Kimberly is here too, and my mom. Hello, hello. So I'm bringing in the Sage ink first, and I've got this nice little handy-dandy piece of drawer liner that my mom gave me that holds my ink pad from sliding around when I'm using my blending brush. And I love these blending brushes. Oh, I was so happy when Close to My Heart came out with these. They feel so nice. They go so nicely with the ink. Just beautiful. And so the great thing about this stencil and embossing folder is that, when you're doing stenciling, you've got that, the chance that your stencil's going to shift. Well, because we're putting this stencil over top of something that's raised, it's embossed, the stencil kind of nestles in around the image that has been embossed. And so once you get it lined up, and it takes just a hot minute to do that, it's kind of there. It's not really going to move. And I'm not going to worry too much about ink on my hand at this point. But I'm going to go ahead with some Sage ink first. So I'm going to go with a lighter green first, and then I'm going to move into a darker green. So I'm just going to kind of do all over with the lighter green. And you just go ahead with the blending brush. Doesn't that just have such a nice light touch? And puts on just a nice little light layer. So soft. I think that's so pretty. Very sort of winter green color coming through there with the sage. And we'll just work our way around the stencil here and there. Such an easy way to add color to the embossed image, I must say. The first time I used it, I was thoroughly impressed. And going all the way around. The other good thing is that if you're doing a lot of these cards, like if you're trying to mass produce some cards to get your Christmas card list knocked down, you just don't wash it. Just keep using it, because you will end up rubbing the ink that's sitting on the surface into the spots where it needs to go, right? Just wash it when you're all done. So there's our sage, and then I'm going to come in using the same blending brush because it's all greens, and I'm going to come in with some darker green, which is the pine, and I'm just going to add a little bit of darker green. Now hopefully I haven't shifted this, which I did. I shifted it a little bit when I picked it up because my hand kind of stuck to the stencil. If you're ever worried about it, you can always tape it down. But, you know, it just takes another second to just massage it back into place. So easy. There we go. When I've used it before, too, I've even, you know, you can stick your paper down with a little bit of washi tape and stuff like that. But you don't need to. You can just hold on to it. It's all good. So then I'm going to load up with some of the pine. And I just want to kind of feather on some of that darker green. So I don't want to cover the whole leaf because then it would cover up all that beautiful sage. But what we're adding is just a little bit of depth to the image and a little bit of darker color on some parts. Shows up really nicely on these big leaves. You can get really dark where the stem is and then kind of lighten it up as you go. And these blending brushes are just perfect for this. The foams are lovely for certain things. I love them for going, you know, edge distressing and things like that. But sometimes for stenciling, the foam is not the best choice because the foam doesn't get in the little details as much. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it just doesn't. There we go. And you can fiddle around with this as much or as little as you want, right? It's kind of up to you how much fiddling and detailing you're going to do. But I'm just going to kind of work my way around. Almost done with the greens. So lovely. There we go. The other thing I have found with these brushes is that if you're not so good with adding ink, they're very forgiving because they do have a light touch. And with the foam blending tools, you can have a tendency to end up with a big circle when you first set it down if you're not quite familiar with them. But these kind of make that foolproof, right? They just kind of take away that chance of doing that, and that's nice. It's appreciated when things can be a little bit easier, right? So there we have added now our two different colors of green. Doesn't that look pretty? You can see sort of that variegated look of the green. And then let's take this and we're going to switch it out for some reds. So I've got now my red blending brush, and I'm going to start with Candy Apple. Because, you know, we like our red and greens when we're thinking about holidays and Christmas. And then what we want to do is we want to just line up our stencil so that this now covers all the parts that wasn't, that are green, and expose all the parts that haven't been colored yet. Of course, now it's got like this red glow over the whole thing. So it looks like the whole background is now pink. Right? I'm going to just grab a sticky note here. Take the sticky part off. And so I can hold on to this because I will get red all over my hands and it'll look kind of crazy. But so to avoid that, I'm just going to cover like that. And just go ahead and apply some Candy Apple lightly to the parts that are exposed here. Now, some of these are leafy, and if you don't feel like you want to add red to leafy things, then don't. But you know what? It just looks very pretty and festive when you're done. It doesn't have to be true to form. If you want, you could go over these leafy bits with a different color of green, or a toffee color, or just about any color you want. I have even seen examples of people using this same embossing folder and stencils using fall colors, right? Because who's going to know it's supposed to be holly, right? You don't have to look that closely. So I'm going really light with this candy apple. If I was trying to get a full kind of coverage, I would be going over this a little bit more, but I kind of want just a very light dusting of the candy apple red. And then I'm going to switch and go to the darker one, which is Scarlet. And we're going to apply some Scarlet. Now I'm just double checking. I don't think anything moved. And then we're just going to add a little Scarlet, just like we did with the two different kinds of green, right? We're just going to add a little bit here and there, just to darken some of it up. And one nice thing about stencils, if you're not going too hard and you're just lightly going around, you'll actually almost give yourself an outline with the darker color, because it'll kind of rub up against the outside of the stencil and deposit a little bit extra color around the cutout part. That's what I'm trying to say, the cutout part. So there we go, just adding a little extra of the Scarlet for some color variation. Okay, all done with that. That's not a hard process, really. You know, you're just applying color however you like it. Just going to set my stencils aside. And there we go. Got a little something on there. Isn't that fun? Doesn't that look so cool when it comes out and you can see the little variations in the color? And it looks so crisp and lovely. Yes, Carol, those brushes, they're so lovely, aren't they? Minty, fresh greens, yes. So now we're going to move this out of the way. And the best way to store this mat, normally I would wipe it off a bit, is to just roll it up. You don't want to get any creases in it. You just want to keep it nice and either flat or rolled. Okay. So now we want to do a little bit of marking on here. So let me grab my pencil. And what I want to do is I want to mark about 1 inch down on the left side. So let me line it up on my Versamat here. And there we go. And I want to come down 1 inch. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm just going to put a little mark with my pencil on coming down the left side. And then coming up on the right side, I want to mark it at 1 inch. And has anybody got an idea of what might be happening next? Why are we marking it? Remember we said we were mixing and matching. Well, let's bring in this second one that we've got sitting here that we have done no inking to. And we are going to line it up on the Versamat. And we're going to mark it the same. We're going to come down 1 inch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 inch on this side, and we're going to come up 1 inch on this side, and we're going to mark it there. So let's bring in our little trimmer, and we are going to trim from side to side. We're going to line up that 1 inch down mark and the 1 inch up mark across on a diagonal, like so. And snip. There we go. So we've got 2 pieces of that. And then we're going to do the exact same thing over here. We're going to line up the 1 inch down and the 1 inch up. Sometimes you got to jiggle it back and forth a bit. I always find there's always that moment of just sort of adjusting and jiggling because everything wants to pivot. And then snip. So now, here's where we get to the mixing and the matching. Okay, so we've got our 2 different pieces, and what we're going to do is we're going to just do that. How easy is that? In fact, this one, I think we might not only mix it and match it, we're going to spin it around like that. How fun is that? Looks so good. Alrighty. And this one, we're actually going to do horizontally. So not only are we mixing and matching, we are making two sort of slightly different cards, which is nice. Not everything has to be the same. And I should mention that this design is completely scrap lifted, or however you want to say it, from a fellow consultant named Connie Hart. And it was just so gorgeous and beautiful. And all the consultants were like, oh my goodness, so beautiful. Oh no, Kimberly lost us. Have you got us back again? So Connie Hart is to be credited with this design. This is not out of Monica's head. So that's one thing that is nice, is that we're all inspired by other people, right? We always want to get inspiration and share inspiration. And so I'm very thankful for social media that allows us to do this. Now I'm going to have two card bases here, and they're pre-scored. So I'm going to fold it with the bump side to the inside, just like that. Oops. Kimberly, did you find us again? Of course, if she hasn't found us again, she's not going to hear me ask the question. Can you hear me now? And then we're going to fold the other one, and I'm just using the handle of my scissors. Oh my goodness, were you guys so excited about the fact that these scissors were on sale on the Cyber Monday sale? I know I was. Okay, so let's stick these pieces down. Now let me see. Yeah, I think I'll go ahead and use liquid glue. Oh, my liquid glue is not running. Let me grab this liquid glue. There we go. So because I cut these pieces to be the exact size of the card front, they should fit on here, no problem. And especially with things like this that are embossed, it does kind of help to have liquid glue, because you've got all those little nooks and crannies, and there's a little bit of dry glue that came off the tip. Nobody else ever has that happen, right? Where there's a chunk of now it's stuck to my hand, where there's a chunk of glue that falls off into your project. No, just me. All right, so we're going to go ahead. We're going to stick this right onto our card front, just like that. Easy peasy. I loved this look of having that beautiful colored side and then the crisp white side. I love the contrast, and it's so clean and beautiful and Christmassy. Oh, I was like, yeah, I'm definitely going to have to show this idea, because Connie is a smart lady. So beautiful. So there we go, and we've mixed and matched and lined up our designs so they just flow one from the other. But we're going to actually conceal the seam here in a second once I get this other one stuck down. And you wouldn't necessarily have to, but I think it just looks a lot nicer when you do. So I just realized my head is probably in the frame because I'm leaning over so far to line this up. There we go. And what we're going to be using to conceal that is some shimmer trim, some quick and easy shimmer trim. It's already 1/2 inch wide, and we just got to run it across and stick it down. So simple. I think I'm definitely going to be making a few of these cards to send out to finish off my Christmas card list. The other good thing is if by chance there's any sort of, discrepancy between the two halves, then the shimmer trim will disguise that. It's always nice to have some little fail-safe, right? Hello, Sue. Oh, Kimberly's back. Yay! And so we're just going to take the shimmer trim and we're just going to line it up and stick it right across like that. And I always give a little extra so that you can just trim it off. Now, don't trim off the backing, okay? Leave your tail of backing hanging all the time with your shimmer trim. Don't ever trim it off, because you will kick yourself if you do. You'll say, oh, why did I do that? Because it just makes life so much easier when you leave that tail of backing. You can trim it shorter. so that you don't end up with, 3 meters of backing sticking out. But you never want to let go of that extra little bit there. So let's do the same thing over here. Just peel the backing off, line it up, and stick it down. Easy peasy. So I already got adhesive. You could do the same thing with glitter paper, but you know what? The shimmer trim is just so quick, so easy. You don't have to glue it. You don't have to do anything. Just trim it and you're done. Good to go. Always trim from the back. And you're set. So that was a candy apple shimmer trim that I was using there. So that's lovely. And so next we want to add a sentiment on here. And so I've gone ahead and used, let me pull it in here, it's upside down, Stitched Fancy Brackets Thin Cuts. And I used the smaller one of the two. And I have cut out the little frame here. And I'm going to use the candy apple ink again, this time for stamping. And I'm going to be using the sentiment from the Merriest season stamp set. I'm looking around here as I'm talking, going, where did I put the the stamp? It's because I moved it from here over to here when we had the all-purpose mat out. So I'm just going to go ahead and ink up the Merriest season sentiment. Kind of line it up in the center of that bracket that we thin cut. And stamp it on there, the Merriest season. And by the wonderful miracle of Facebook Live, I actually have 2 of them. Look at that. Who knew? So let's bring in some little foam dots to add some dimension. There we go. Now, I think on Connie's, she didn't really add any foam. She left everything flat, and you could totally do that. There's nothing saying that this has to be popped up. If you like to keep everything low profile for going through the mail, then absolutely go ahead and do it. You're just going to want to make sure that if you need to stick anything across glitter stuff, the words were failing me. If you need to stick anything across glittery things, then you're going to want to use liquid glue, right? Now, if it spans it like this does, you're able to stick it down. But then, as part of the season stamp set, which I have been using a lot of, we have all of these fun leafy green or needly green evergreens, and then we've got some leafies and some other little embellishments. And so I've gone ahead and stamped some of them out, but I'm going to do a couple here just for you now. And I'm going to stamp them using pine. I like this dark green. And here we go. I'm going to do the dark, or sort of the evergreen branches. There we go. There's one. And the other one, 2 different shapes. There's 2. Lovely. And fussy cutting. Because this stamp set actually does come with thin cuts. So if you don't like fussy cutting, you can absolutely purchase it with thin cuts. And then avoid doing this, but I like doing this. And so we're just going to quickly go around here. I like to leave a halo of the white showing, and I like to pivot my paper, working with the back end of my scissors as opposed to the very tip, and just wiggle and jiggle your way around the stamped image all the way. Yes, these stamps are lovely. Heather says she came back, oh no, the spinning circle of death. I hope on the replay that doesn't happen. I don't know what it is about Facebook sometimes, but it just doesn't play nicely sometimes. So I'm glad you guys were able to get back and that my video came back. There we go. All the way around. Yes, this stamp set is really pretty. And it's kind of one of those ones, like if you buy it without the thin cuts, it's only like 16 something, like 16.25, which is not bad considering how much I've used it already, right? Seems like a fairly good investment. I like to invest in the stamps that I know I'm going to use again and again, and I'm pretty sure that this is one that's going to get pulled out every year. You know, there's certain stamps that are like that, even though there's new ones, and you love the new ones, and you buy the new ones, there's still those tried and true ones that are just good all-purpose tools to have, and I think this is one of those for me. In fact, all of the stamps in this Four Seasons collection seem to be very, very practical, useful stamps. Nice little set. There we go. All the way around, just like that. Carol says, "Oh, hail the fussy cutting queen." That's funny. You're funny, Carol. Okay, but because I didn't want you having to sit here and stare at me fussy cut for days, I've gone ahead and, and had some things already done. So I did the little berries in candy apple, and we can go ahead and make a nice little cluster here on our page, on our card, not on our page, on our card, and just tuck a little branchy goodness there, and another little branchy goodness over here. Just kind of, let me see, can I tuck it under a little bit? I'll tuck it a little bit under and a little bit over. I've only added liquid glue just on the little branch here, and so that allows me to kind of have lift in places where I want it to have lift, and if I don't want it to have lift, I can lay it down. And let me see, where's my little pokey tool? I'm going to actually, because this is lifting a lot, I'm going to take one of these little foam dots, peel the backing off, got it on my pokey tool, and then I can just tuck it under here and stick that down so that it's not kind of flying away too much, right? And then let's see, let's put a little bit of foam behind the little berries, and we'll stick those on there like that. And then we have to have a little bit of bling on this one. Just because. So I've got my little clear sparkles here, and I'm going to add a little sparkle there, and a little sparkle here, and a little sparkle here, and another little sparkle down here. And then why not, we'll just kind of hide a little sparkle over here for good measure. Just to balance out the one on the other side. So there we go. There's one of our cards completed. Now let's move over to this one. And I think this one I will stick it down just with glue. Like so. We're going to kind of... about there, maybe a little bit up actually, like so. So their little notches are kind of on there like that. And then again, by the magic of Facebook, I have those two again in the pine, and I stamped this one in the sage, and then this leafier one back into the pine again. And then I've got my berries in candy apple and two of the little flowers in scarlet. Oops, it's lifting. I knew that would happen. You turn your back and it tries to jump off the page. All right, let's grab a couple little foam dots here and a little bit of glue here. So I'm putting a little bit of lift at the ends, and then some glue to stick the stem down. The furnace just turned on, so now I have to cough. Sorry about that. It's always a pleasure to hear somebody coughing on camera. Okay, and then the little berries, we'll stick those down as well. Just a couple little dots of glue. And that hides our little stem on our evergreen branch. Goodness gracious, and I didn't bring any water in with me. Boy, oh boy. Okay, let's see. I'm going to add some pop to this as well. Just like that. And like that. The other little branch of the evergreen. So, who's excited about the crop? We're going cropping tomorrow. Beginning of our Australian adventure. I'm kind of excited about it. And then we're going to add a little bit of glue to the base of this one. And also this one. I'm going to give this a little extra glue here and there, like that. And tuck this one under, like so. And then this little guy coming in, maybe like that. Nice little cluster of things happening. And then, of course, we have our little flowers. So let me see. Maybe we'll put these guys on with some little pop dots. Some foam dots. It's nice that they're so tiny, those little foam dots, because they fit so well onto these little things. Yes, Lisa, these stamps are so versatile. You are correct. And let me see. We can hide some of our little stems with our little flower, and then we'll tuck another one up there like that. And there, that is our 2 cards. We got a 2 for the price of 1 tonight. 2 cards using that holly, embossing, and stencil, and adding color. So embossing 2 pieces, stenciling the color onto one of the pieces, leaving the other one that nice crisp white, and then cutting on the diagonal, mixing and matching, covering up the seam with the candy apple shimmer trim to add that nice little bit of sparkle on there. And then, of course, stamping out some of the Merriest season pieces for embellishing and just adding nice little colorful touches. And, of course, our sentiment on top of the Fancy Brackets thin cut. And I think that's so cute. And then, of course, this one we added a little bit of bling on there as well. So I hope you enjoyed that. Have a wonderful evening. And we will hope to see you tomorrow and throughout the 4 days of our Australia adventure crop. All right. Have a wonderful night. Toodaloo. Bye.